Portlock was cursed and Bigfoot's place and nobody goes there.
Overnight, everybody left.
From European seamen who were frightened off by the strange sounds released by this mysterious creature to the desertion of a town thanks to the violent acts of some unknown monster, here are the shocking details on the Portlock, Alaska Bigfoot killings. Ever heard of the town of Portlock? Located in Port Chatham on the southern Kenai Peninsula in Alaska, there was once high hopes for this town. However, all those hopes disappeared into thin air in the mid to early 1990s. Why? Well, while some blame the abandonment of the thriving town that had an abundance of fish and game on economic reasons, if you can believe it, many others blame the abandonment of the town on this frightening creature that had wreaked havoc in the area for centuries. How it all started. Although this creature must have been wandering around the area for centuries before this, it all seemed to have started when British Captain Nathaniel Portlock came upon this land back in 1785. What is interesting about the arrival of the captain and his crew is that they did not come up on virgin land. No, they actually came across some abandoned villages. What was even more troubling about the haunting nature of the abandoned villages that the captain and his crew came across was that the captain and his crew started falling ill not too long after their arrival on the deserted land. As you can imagine, this was a scary time for Captain Portlock and his men.
Oh, there he goes.
Not wanting to suffer any longer, the men begged their captain to leave this desolate land. Considering the fact that 6 years earlier, Spanish Navy men that came across this spot suffered the same fate, it really didn't take too long for Captain Portlock to get his men out of there. We must mention that while both sets of men experienced similar events, we must point out that the Spanish were also haunted by the voices that echoed from the dense forest. Creepy. Some believe that this must be some sort of low vibrations that humans couldn't hear but feel. Referred to as infrasound, it seems to cause some feelings of dizziness and even worse, fear. These vibrations are so powerful and effective that it is believed that predators such as tigers and sperm whales use it to confuse their prey. Pretty heavy stuff, especially as many have worried about if it was some sort of large creature that plagued the Spanish when they were on this abandoned land. What is even grimer about all of these strange events is that this proved to be just the tip of the iceberg when it came to the abandoned land of Portlock, the cannibal giants of Portlock. Let's fast forward to 1867, when the Sugpiaq, a group of native settlers, decided to give Portlock a chance. After all, the land was rich with game and fish, and as such, it promised these people a chance for a good life. Unfortunately, it wouldn't take too long for them to regret their decision to stay. This is because before long, the small community was confronted by creatures that scared them out of their skin. This is because these creatures were monstrous, appearing to be some sort of hybrid half-man, half-beast. These aggressive beings came out of the woods to raid their village, and let's just say they weren't too nice about their approach. It got so bad that when the community appeared to be low on supplies, these creatures didn't mind feasting on the people themselves. Before long, the Sugpiaq knew all too well to avoid the creatures they now refer to as the Nantinaq. Going further down the timeline, the Sugpiaq realized that they were just going to have to give up on Portlock. Staying there was going to cost all of them their lives. The best thing was for them to leave, and that is exactly what they did. It would take a few more decades, but another group would give the seemingly cursed land of Portlock a chance. This time, it was the Alutiiq who decided to make a home out of this frightening place. This time, though, it looked like they had a plan that was set to work. For some time, they were even able to maintain a cannery, so much so that they would be referred to as a cannery town. Add a school and even a post office, and it looks like things were set to go, especially as they maintained strict rules to maintain the peace between the community and the forces of nature that were lurking just on the outskirts of their community. With a curfew, a set of armed guards manning the borders of the village, and a strict rule banning anyone from wandering off into the woods, the town seemed to grow for a time. In fact, things seemed to go quite well for a decade or so. Unfortunately, this passage of time allowed for a level of complacency that would end up destroying this community. The shocking events. This period of growth could come to a tragic end in 1931. This is when a logger known as Andrew Camluck would make the unfortunate mistake of going too deep into the forest. Unsurprisingly, his friends soon noticed that he was gone, so they went out to look for him. They would be the one to discover their friend's body in a terrifyingly gruesome state. His body would be discovered with a head that was crushed to bits with so much force that his body was found far away from his sled. As if that wasn't bad enough, even his dogs were victims of this violent rampage. Their bodies were found ripped apart, as if some powerful monster had torn them to shreds with their bare hands. As you can imagine, this was a traumatic scene to find. To make matters worse, another resident of the town known as Tom Larson came across this massive creature when he was on the beach. The being was an imposing one to say the least, so much so that its mere size may have intimidated Larson enough for him not to take it down with his rifle. The scene was haunting to say the least, and it stood as clear warning that the Nantinaq was out there, and it was not friendly to them. That was clear enough to the people of Portlock, who soon realized that more and more people were going missing by the day. To make matters worse, those missing people began turning into dead bodies. Their discoveries were also traumatic, as these dead bodies were mangled and desecrated beyond recognition. What made it even more frightening was that it was clear that no bear or coyote was responsible for this. No, this was no wild animal. This was the Nantinaq. Frightened to their core, the people of Portlock did what they could to bring this chaos to an end. They tried to reinforce the strict rules that kept them safe for so long, but unfortunately, it would be too late. The end of the town of Portlock. Despite trying to reinforce those rules, the people of Portlock realized that the casualties were piling up. What's even worse is that these deaths seemed to be drawing ever closer to the center of town. It got so bad that things seemed to come to an end by the 1950s. At that point in time, the town was down to about 36 people. To make matters worse, the bodies of these people started popping up. Understandably, these bodies scared the life out of everyone. It was bad enough that they were bodies. Even worse, these bodies were too mangled and mutilated to be considered to be the work of any wild animal that may be in the forest nearby. With that in mind, it became clear that the region was not big enough for them and the Nantinaq. Scared for their very lives, they knew that they had to come to the decision that they all hated. They just had to leave. What is even more startling about their decision to leave was how they left. Looking at the abandoned town of Portlock, you'd find that it looked as though the people of Portlock decided to leave immediately. We came to this conclusion because the homes were left filled with the furniture, the businesses were left deserted, and even the cannery was abandoned without any official statement or ceremony. As you can imagine, such is the state of fear of the people of that town. Some of these people didn't even take anything with them. The only person that stayed back, and even that was for a short period of time, was the postmaster. Furthermore, even that was a frightening experience for the poor man, as he remembered hearing some creatures lurking outside his barricaded door in the dead of night. What a strange experience. The abandoned town of Portlock. Following the desertion of Portlock, the lore and the legend of the town took some time to grow. Fast forward some more decades to the 70s, and you'd find that some more lore was added to the legend of the abandoned town of Portlock. This time, it wasn't a small community that tried to turn this place into a home. This time, it was a group of 3 hunters who had to take shelter in the abandoned village when they were confronted by a raging storm. Unfortunately for them, they would be confronted by some unknown presence that gave off some sort of frightening, guttural growl. Although it went unseen, the 3 hunters were certain that this was no bear. Listening to how it moved around, they could tell that its footfalls were deliberate and bipedal. This was just the first of many strange things that was experienced in the abandoned town over the years. Following these, there were these hunters who went into the abandoned town in search of some deer. While they didn't find any of these deer, they would be surprised by the discovery of something potentially even more troubling. The hunters proved to be stumped by the discovery of this massive set of footprints. We're talking about footprints that are 18 inches long. Even the big show isn't walking around with feet that big. This is why the footprints were so troubling. As big as they were, they did have similar features to footprints left behind by humans. What were they on to here? After following these sets of footprints and the moose track that they were hoping to hop on, the hunters were soon startled by the evidence of some sort of struggle in the grass nearby. Looking to make sense of what was going on, the hunters followed the evidence along the way. Sure, there was no blood or no bodies, but there were enormous footprints that seemed to lead the hunting party into the mountains nearby. After some thinking, the hunters came to realize that it looked as though the monster with the massive footprints had dragged some deer, or perhaps even more frighteningly, a moose, up those mountains. Do you know how big moose are? What could be powerful enough to drag that thing up a mountain by those massive antlers? Either way, what is clear is that a healthy fear for Portlock seemed to be developing in the area. The frightening tale from 1990. This fear didn't let up for many decades, by the way. Just look at the time that this Alutiiq elder suffered a heart attack when he was in jail. The paramedics were looking for ways to keep the man calm, so they brought up hunting near the Portlock area. Well, this didn't go well for the paramedics or the man, because this just made the heart attack worse. While the medics tried to keep him stable, the man frantically asked them if they had seen it and if it had bothered them. Even when the guards tried to restrain him, they couldn't contain his wild fears. As you can imagine, this just tells us how much trauma the poor people of Portlock suffered when they tried to make this haunted place home. Could this be a monster or just some force of nature? What is interesting about the tale of the Nantinaq and the lives it had destroyed over the centuries is that despite the mountain of evidence of its existence, there are some people who think that the events that occurred could simply be explained away by nature. Some even tried to explain it away as some of the mistakes some humans made. These skeptics did everything they could to explain this phenomenon away. Some even stated that they believed that the massive footprints belonged to bears. Sure, there are a ton of black bears and brown bears in the state of Alaska, and they are known for being powerful and territorial, but it may just be too much to sell to anyone. For starters, even the experts have taken notice of the fact that bears don't attack people in the same manner in which those people in the stories were attacked. They even tried to explain Andrew Kamluck's tragic end as some sort of logging accident. Maybe that could explain the crushed head, but what about the fact that his dogs were torn apart? Looking for some way to dodge this, some of these scientists tried to explain that the sickness and the fear that the settlers experienced may have been caused by powerful sound waves from the wind or the underground activity nearby. That seems fair enough, but could they be blamed for the missing people as well? There seemed to be a ton of confusion that was caused by these experts looking to create their own versions of the truth. Some of these experts, and those who may have agreed with them, claimed that the Nantinaq must have been some sort of story. Maybe a scary story that was told by the elder of the town to keep those hyper kids out of the dangerous woods surrounding their village. If that was the case, how were they going to explain the trees that were found upside down in the woods? What on earth could be strong enough to pull this off? Some tried to blame this on some sort of powerful storm. Sure, a storm could be responsible for blowing trees out of the ground by their roots, but could a storm be strong enough to stick the trees back into the ground? Dismissing these implausibilities, those who believed in the Nantinaq used such incidents as proof of the strength of the mysterious creature. Whatever the case may be, one thing that is for sure is that the legend of the Nantinaq is mired in mystery. The tales of the elders. Looking to clear things up, many consulted with some of the people that came out of this town. One of the elders, Sally Ash, gave us her own 2 cents when it came to why the town is deserted today. As a Sugpiaq elder, it may surprise us to learn that she believed that the Nantinaq had nothing to do with the abandonment of Portlock. To her, the people of Portlock left to search for better jobs, school, and churches. To them, there was a chance of getting these things in places such as Nantinaq and Solovia. Funny enough, though, her actions seem louder than her words, as she is still the same person that advises people to keep quiet when they are going past Portlock. Is she afraid that something is still there? Melania Kell, Sally Ash's cousin, had something different to say back in 2009. Back then, she came out to say that the people of Portlock were being attacked by the Nantinaq. To her, it was these strange creatures that chased them out of this town. As such, it is clear that Melanie didn't agree with her cousin. Unfortunately, Sally tried to play a fast one on us when Melanie was giving her own account of things. As she was acting as Melanie's translator, she tried to lie about everything that her cousin was saying. She even went as far as insisting that the Nantinaq never even hurt anyone. Who is telling the truth here? What exactly is the Nantinaq? Whatever the truth may be, the only thing that is certain about it all is that we are still wondering what the Nantinaq truly is. The creature is so mysterious, it has been classified as one of the many cryptids that we are still trying to learn about. Right now, many people compare the Nantinaq to cryptids such as Bigfoot and the Yeti. probably because they are large, heart, and bipedal, just like their proposed human relatives. Another part of the mystery of this creature is that you can find many similar stories from many different parts of the world. As we wonder about their source, many different experts have popped up with their own theories. Some of these experts have proposed that the Nantinaq must be some sort of human species, maybe even some sort of undiscovered animal. Right now, we don't know which truth is more certain. Maybe that is why the entire thing is so fascinating. Maybe it's because of the prospects of something even bigger when it comes to this creature. But we do know that the mystery of the Nantinaq goes far beyond what the eyes can see. As such, we can see how right now, the Nantinaq has become part of Alaskan folklore. As a result, there are many that are pushing on with the research of this creature, and with any luck, this may help us get some more information. That is why there are many TV shows and documentaries out there that focus on finding the truth behind this mysterious creature. Over time, the many accounts seem to have helped the Nantinaq become one of the most fascinating monster mysteries in North America. What cryptozoology says about the Nantinaq? Whatever the case may be elsewhere, it seems as though the cryptozoology world believes that the legends of Nantinaq could be the mysterious creature that could connect folklore with science. After all, there is no denying that there are many similarities between the Nantinaq and creatures such as Bigfoot and the Yeti. Thanks to these similarities, many people have pondered on the possibility of the Nantinaq being some sort of undiscovered species, maybe some sort of ancient humans that have survived on their own in the last few millennia. While that is fascinating enough, we cannot ignore the macabre nature of the activities of the Nantinaq. From uprooted upside-down trees to mangled dead bodies popping up everywhere because of this creature, it has proved itself to be something to fear. Considered to be something of an apex predator, perhaps one of the most worrying parts of it all is that this creature has remained consistently violent. Despite the fact that tales are being passed down when it comes to this creature, some skeptics still argue that the stories that emerged from the legend of the Nantinaq are the results of fear, exaggeration, and other natural explanations. That said, there are those who have refused to let these claims dilute their beliefs when it comes to this mysterious creature. In the end, Portlock has been left as an abandoned town. Maybe that is why it has been able to attract the attention of filmmakers, writers, and the likes. As such, it is somewhat certain that the tales of this strange creature are set to go on for many generations to come. Even though it has been many years since the abandonment of Portlock, many are still attracted to this village, and one way or another, it seems as though we shall slowly make our way back. With many comparing the Nantinaq to Bigfoot, it's not surprising that some, such as the cast of Expedition Bigfoot, have gone out in search of this creature. Let's just hope that those who find it don't end up as the last thing that they ever see. From European seamen who were frightened off by the strange sounds released by this mysterious creature, to the desertion of a town thanks to the violent acts of some unknown monster, here are the shocking details on the Portlock, Alaska Bigfoot killings.